Welcome to the Business Spotlight Series. My name is Marcia Erickson, and I'm host for today's conversation. My guest today is Ryan Orr of Square One. Ryan does video production and consulting. We're going to talk about his business, his journey to business ownership, and share a peek into what it's really like to own your own business. Welcome, Ryan, to the show, and thanks for being here today.
Well, thanks for having me, Marcia. Greatly appreciate it.
Yeah, I would love for you to share with the audience a bit of background on you, your story, your journey, and what it's like to own your business.
Oh boy, that's a big question, isn't it? So a little background on me. QC native, grew up here, went to school here, and always had a interest in photography and videography. Started my journey professionally many moons ago in television news at Channel 6, believe it or not. I started working newscasts, studio cameras, those types of things, and then eventually branched out into the production world as I finished school and things like that. So I've been in this industry in some form for 30 years.
Wow.
So production has been the biggest part of that because I really enjoyed all the different moving parts, whether that's coming up with that big idea for a client, or just being on set to make sure that things go the way they should, or in the editing process and that part where you see all of these things finally come together, and really become that tangible thing that started off as a crazy idea on a napkin and now it's real. So yeah, I've been involved in video production for a long time, and it's been a great journey for sure.
I love that. I did not know that about Channel 6. It doesn't surprise me at all. I sometimes this is a different question. Sometimes I like to ask this as a icebreaker to groups.
Mhm.
Is that what you majored in college?
I did actually
Okay.
got started in high school. So
Oh, no.
I was really fortunate that I was going to high school. They had a TV tech program, and I forever credit my teacher then for ruining me in the right way, but getting me really get my feet wet and make those mistakes and play and just figure things out. And that's what led to that first opportunity and branched out from there. So it was just so much fun. And when it's fun, that the passion ignites, all those things happen, and it's less like work and more like play.
100%. I can relate. So tell us about business ownership. You went from working for other people, right, for years,
Yes.
and now you're owning your own business. So tell us about that journey. What made you want to do it?
Well, it's one of those things where I've always worked mainly for smaller production companies, so always been involved with companies that were say under 20 people. And the nice part is, you get to know everyone personally, and you have a personal stake in your work, those types of things. Eventually, just came down to the whole thing of just opportunities came up to play by your own rules, write your own path. And I think, like a lot of people do, it's that point where you go, all right, I want to know. I want to know if it's going to work. I don't want to wonder anymore. I don't want to sit and dream. I want to make the dream real. And where it takes me is where it takes me. I can succeed or I can fail, but I want to know. And that's exactly what happened. But all the companies that I worked for along the way and things like that helped shape that as the industry changed and things like that. And you make contacts, you make friendships along the way that still maintain to this day.
That's awesome. I love that. Tell us about the structure of the business. Are you the sole person in the business right now?
Yes. So Square One right now is a very small company, a micro business in the sense
Yeah.
that I am the owner, the operator, the bathroom cleaner, everything in between.
Yeah.
Um, the nice part is that clients like that smaller touch because they know what they're getting, they know who's accountable, and all those types of things. But with video production also comes flexibility because on any given project, we often bring in other creatives who fit the bill, whether that's a writer, whether that's a dedicated set of shooters, or any types of things. We flex and we move as the project dictates, but they always have a constant source of truth when it comes to who do I direct my questions to, who do I talk to when there's a problem, if there is one, whatever it is. So right now it is just me at the helm, but always keeping my eye looking forward to see how I can strategically grow and be very smart about expanding that business reach.
Yeah. Um, a couple thoughts on that. Number one,
Mhm.
I often tell clients, even, solopreneurs, your team is broader than, right? It's not necessarily someone who's on the payroll. So you described that really well, right? You're partnering with a lot of people and you're at the place where you get to define the quality and build the systems so that as you build the team out, you're going to be ready to go. So, and that's what clients love about you.
Yeah, and that really has been one of the things that has driven the production industry in general. You think about a movie, you assemble your crew, your A team every time. And you see those behind the scenes, like with Spielberg or whoever, they pick who they want for that job. They pick who they want for that movie. And that's always been the really strong part about this end is you can pick and choose, your talents and the people who are right for that job. They might not be right for the next job, but for this one, they are your A team. And you form those really strong bonds. And the nice part is that you're collaborating and you're working with people who also want to do good work. Nobody comes into the set and goes, I'm going to do a 50-50 job today. They're there for a reason. You brought them on for a reason, and you're all there to make sure that everything goes well.
Yeah, that leads into a really great point.
Mhm.
Who do you serve? What other businesses do you work with? Who picks you, to your point, right? Who picks you to work with? Who's your ideal client? Tell us about that.
Uh, a large part of our clientele, I would say, are in that mid to small. Obviously, those definitions are very vague and
Mhm.
things like that. But I would say, micro businesses, small businesses, and medium-sized businesses are where we focus, but also the ones that gravitate most toward us as well. And a lot of that
Mhm.
is because of that personal relationship. They don't want a lot of layers to get things done because those layers slow things down, or that's where that line of communication can be broken in ways that when you're talking about being out on a shoot and making sure things go right, you want to make sure that when they have a request or things change, that all of that is very clear, it flows smoothly, and we can have honest and straightforward conversations to figure things out along the way.
Yeah. Yeah, I can attest to that. I've had clients that have used you and they've been really, really impressed. And those touch points and being there along the way. There's a lot more involved in video production than anyone realizes, right? There's a lot more steps than we think.
Yes, and that is usually one of the first pieces of feedback, especially if you're dealing with a client who's just diving into some type of video production. You maybe get done with that first take or that first day, and they kind of take that breath and go, oh, I never realized that there was all this. Because we see those things, those behind the scenes things on TV, or we see those finished pieces that very much give the illusion, what we create, that make
Hmm.
it seem very, very easy. And it's easy for a trained professional. It's not easy for someone who is trying to run a business and do all their other things. And so when they haven't been in the hot seat before and they've really never had a taste of that, it's very eye-opening, but it also helps give them that appreciation that, hey, there are all these moving parts, and every single one of those parts has to move, and the next one has to drive the next one. So everything from the script all the way through, everything's got to line up, and when it does, everything goes well. But if we've got a weak point, that weak point doesn't go away, and we
Yeah.
have to make sure that it gets resolved, or we figure out a creative solution. But yeah, it is true. A lot of people think, oh, I'm just going to get up, I'm just going to say my thing, and I'm good to go. And it doesn't happen that way.
Yeah. Kind of a project manager in a way.
Yes, air traffic controller, if you will.
Yeah. So that leads me into marketing. So
Okay.
everyone wants, so think about your own business first and foremost, but
Yeah.
also, you are a marketer. So a lot of our listeners want to know the greatest and best new strategies for marketing. So what do you use for your own business? And then
Mhm.
what do you recommend for small businesses?
Well, I guess I'll answer that in two parts. So for ourselves, it's a very interesting thing with video production because you are a B2B type business, not necessarily consumer facing. So, first and foremost, a referral is worth its weight in gold. When you have a satisfied customer, and they are willing to say to someone, "Hey, I've had a great experience. I want you to have a great experience. Here's who you talk to." There is absolutely nothing better than that by far.
Mhm.
And when you don't have, again, a forward-facing building like Walgreens or something like that, someone's not just going to walk in the door. That's not how video works. It happens when a marketing team or a business owner says, "Hey, we have this thing and we need to get it out to our customers. How do we do that?" So beyond referrals, and a lot of that is, it's hard networking. It's shaking hands, it's meeting people, it's helping them understand what you do or what you don't do, um, and helping them understand that there's lots and lots of options out there, especially sometimes when they've seen something they like, um, but it may not be the best fit. It's helping them understand that, hey, I understand what you're seeing. I understand where you're going. We need to make it yours. We need to understand how to customize it toward your audience, towards your people, and those types of things. So then that kind of leads me into the next thing. What is the ways and the things, and part of the thing is that it's always changing. Yeah, especially in the last couple of years, the rules are really all over the place. Online video is growing and growing and growing exponentially each year. When I first started in this industry, it was broadcast or nothing. There was no social media, and everything had to go through those channels because that's where everybody was. Now you have the screens in our hands, to the screens we're talking on, and of course our big screens on our walls. And so the challenge is to um, fit within those bounds depending upon the client and their goals. And it's not always a straight path. We have to be willing to go fishing and see what bites, and then pivot from there and make more decisions as we have data or as we have feedback and things like that. But the nice part is when there are no rules, you can really stretch the limits of creativity if you're willing to, and really go for things that maybe before you couldn't do as easily, or they were just maybe too far out there. But there's really, really a blank canvas with each client, and that opportunity to go, "Hey, what about this? What about this?"
Mhm.
And see where the road takes you.
Good. So I heard for you personally, referrals,
Yes, yes,
networking for sure. You've got
yes.
past relationships. You've been in the field for a long time.
Mhm.
Do you do your own
Yeah.
videos?
It's always the curse when you're a
Out of
video
shoes.
production company, right? It's just like, the mechanic who works on, Porsches and a Mercedes, but drives the old Toyota, right? And
Yeah.
so, our work is extended through our clients. We live through our clients. And so, a lot of times too, we work on projects that we can't share sometimes because maybe they're internal pieces, maybe they have proprietary information. And so it's tough because you may have worked on a project for 6, 7, 8 months, and you can't share it, or you
Yeah.
can't share it until the client makes it public because it's part of a product
Right.
rollout or an initiative or a fundraising campaign. But once it does, then the beauty there is that's your time to share. "Hey, we worked on this project with this client and couldn't be happier. Make sure you go check it out," and those types of things. So, social media is great for that because then we can help piggyback their initiative and vice versa.
Yeah.
But otherwise, at least a lot of times what we try to do is share the behind the scenes because everybody loves to see, that glimpse behind the camera, or that one little thing that made this shoot interesting, whether it was the location or some stunt,
As you
whatever it
said,
is,
Ryan
right?
standing on his
Right.
head.
Oh my gosh, confetti bombs and explode. No, but no, it's just, people always love to see behind the veil, and see, oh, that's what it took to make that happen. That's really cool.
Yeah. What is when you look over the last year since you went on your own, what's the
Mhm.
biggest hurdle, roadblock that you've overcome?
I, well, I'd say one is still ongoing, and the other one, comes with diving deep into it. I would not by any means consider myself an accountant. I've always been good with, with a dollar, understand the basics and those types of things. And so I think probably one of the most intimidating ones up front was, okay, making sure that I am keeping the business on the back end well oiled
Mm.
and disciplining myself to, take care of the books weekly, daily, whatever it is, don't let that stuff go. Budgeting that time to make sure that the engine is running, and once it's maintained and it's going, okay, it's not going to break. I can now focus on doing all the other things that I do really well. um, just understanding some of those things that you don't have a 100% grasp on, and you just have to learn by fire, whether that's insurance or legalities in terms of, oh, we need to make sure that this form is filled out before we do this particular thing, or relationships with outside contractors, so that our accountants are not mad at us at the end of the year, or that our lawyers are not mad at us at the end of the year,
Yeah.
or things like that. Just those things that, you read about, you understand at a very face value, and it's not until you jump
Yeah.
in and you go, oh, that's how that works.
Yeah. The science of running the business, right? There's the
Right.
art of the creative part the doing that you're
Yes.
amazing at. Then there's the
Yeah.
running of the business,
And
right? That we gotta
now
learn.
some of it hasn't been as hard as I thought. You just don't know. And
Yeah.
so that part of it is getting over that thing of, oh, it's that thing, it's difficult. Tomorrow. And finally you just have to say, no, no, rip the scab off. Let's do this. Oh, well, this really wasn't so hard. Okay.
Yep.
you know,
Awesome.
um, the ongoing one is always, keeping your eyes out for, good growth, new clients that value the work and that who you value as well, and forming that strong relationship. And then really looking at that whole thing of, what does growth mean and where does that happen? That's ongoing. And I don't think that's ever going to really go away. And that's fine. That's part of really, that's not industry specific. I think every business owner on the planet is going to say that same thing in some form. So it's the problem. It's really more of a challenge that will never go away, and you're always learning from every interaction, good or bad.
Yeah. Scaling, right?
Yeah,
Scaling and strategy, which ironically are my favorite parts. I know. Interesting, huh? So
right.
where's the business going to go from here? What do you picture in the next 3 to 5 years?
That's a great question, especially as things continue to change in terms of how people consume media. I think that's the big question mark, in terms of just staying flexible, staying adaptable, and just really helping clients understand that there are so many different ways to do things. So just a big part of it, is don't to not get too rutted in any one particular thing, and make sure that kind of always understanding what the options are as they ebb and flow. Social media has been changing a lot over the years, and even just who's on which social media and all those types of things. And then especially in the next, 3 to 5 years, we're going to have another generation of, teenagers, or, you know, older students who will change and define that again.
Mhm.
um, so, but beyond that too, it's just okay, as these things change, then got to be able to willing to change with it. Whether that means that is expanding the team, whether that means it's different equipment, whether it just means looking at the world very differently. Those are all the big question marks. It's certainly the things that I see in the next 3 to 5 years, really being a big part of that. What won't change is you got to be creative. You got to think out of the box.
Yeah.
That part of it never changes. The end result, or the end output, where you put it might, but still always just got to be keep on your toes of just thinking of those fun new ideas.
Yeah. As you ride the wave of creativity over 3 to 5 years, what do you want the business to look like in 3 to 5 years? What do you want it to do for you?
Um, well, I'll say one of Marsha's best lines, right? That, the best, the a business is best when it can run by itself,
Mhm.
right? And knowing, in a case like mine, when you are that solopreneur, that you also have a single source of failure. If I'm sick tomorrow, things can't move.
Yeah.
And that's a big one that weighs in on me quite constantly. So I would love to be able to position the business so that it can run without me,
Yeah.
or that it is not as critical that, if one leg can't move, well, the other arms and legs can. How can we continue to, move forward, and be adaptable along the way so that those types of bottlenecks don't exist anymore? That I think is the biggest thing.
Yeah. Yeah. It's so many thoughts on that. It's keeping the balance of Ryan's finger on it, Ryan's brand, Ryan's,
Yeah.
quality
Yep.
while
Yep.
expanding and being able to serve more clients, right?
Right. And also too, just, it's a creative industry. And so, it's not always just about you. There's always things that come up during a production or while you're working with other people and an idea comes out like, hey, why don't we look at it this way? Okay, cool. Let's do that. If it solves the problem, or it helps us create a better product, let's do it. And so I recognize that it shouldn't be 100% all about me. And as if as the business grows and that becomes a team environment, then the business should not only be just me, it should be about the whole thing.
Yeah. Which is a great lead into some rapid fire questions. Are you
All right,
ready?
let's go. Let's go. Let's go.
Okay. Timer's on. What's the key to success for you?
The key to success. How so? I guess that's an interesting question because some people define it, financially, and some people define it otherwise.
How do you define it?
I have always defined it as, I guess I'll take a line from one of my former bosses, Phil Dinkeldine, who always said, the sure beats working. And I think that's the thing that has always really stuck with me is that, you can get up every morning and you can smile about what you do. That's success. When you get up and you're passionate about what you're doing, all those other things are going to come along with it. Um, and then you don't stress as much on the financials. You don't stress as much about those things because the connections you make become so much more solid. You smile every day, and your clients see that. They see that when you show up for a reason. So to me, success is really defined by if you're passionate about what you do, rock and roll.
I love it. I love it. Wholeheartedly agree. What's one piece of business advice you have for other business owners?
One that I would say, and I find it most on our consulting side because we often consult clients who have never been on camera before. Maybe they have a CEO or C-suite who's looking to do things, and they're new to all this. Because we get to work with so many different industries, whether it's construction and the trades, of finance to IT, all kinds of things. We get to see how the world works on the backside. One of the things that I really remind a lot of my clients when we're in the consulting role is that most of our challenges are not industry specific. They're just business problems.
Mhm.
And I think a lot of times at first it's very hard to separate yourself when you've been in an industry for a while and you start looking at things only a certain way. It's not just an engineering problem. It's an engineering problem, not necessarily specific to you. So it's been nice in a lot of cases to connect dots for clients. Good case in point, had a client, smaller business who was having some issues with more on the IT side, the cybersecurity side of things. And I had just worked on a project for a financial institution that had brought in a cybersecurity expert saying, hey, these are these things that we need to train employees to know to, not click malicious links and bad actors and all these things. And in talking to my client, I said, hey, I think you need to talk to this guy. I think you just
Mhm.
need to talk to him because your challenge has nothing to do with landscaping. What you do has nothing to do with that. It's an IT issue. So here, let me connect some dots for you and let's get that problem out of your brain so you can kind of go
Yeah.
back to, doing what you do.
Yeah.
So it's been really interesting to see the light come on when you see two businesses who on paper are oil and water, but
Mhm.
then they realize that, they have these common threads and that they have someone to talk to, that they're not alone and those types of things.
Yeah, it's very similar, right? In my line of work too, we become fresh eyes. When you let
Yes.
someone from a different industry or a different perspective look, some of those things can be really, really easy to see.
Yep.
I love it. I love it. What's a book or podcast that you're reading or listening to right now?
I have not always been the best reader, so that's always a tough one. I love articles, and
Yeah.
things that are timely, and so I will do those
Yeah.
types of things. Podcasts. One that I've been listening to for a little bit is one is one called Past Gas, which is not what it sounds like, but that's the point. It's a group of guys from Donut Media who dive into automotive history, and they really look into a lot of the nuances and characters and things that have gone into some of the things that have led to some of the most iconic or cringeworthy things throughout automotive history. Example is there's a podcast about the PT Cruiser, whether you loved it or you hated it, how that all came about. There's one about DeLorean. Of course, everyone knows the
Yeah.
DeLorean from Back to the Future, but how he started at Pontiac and then went on from there. And then there's all kinds of things like, you know, I shouldn't say the dirt, but it's that they look, deep into things
Yeah.
early on with Henry Ford and all these other types of things. And you kind of understand a little more about these things that behind the scenes and how competitive they were, or these little things that they did to keep some of their secrets secret, or things like that. But it's just three guys sitting around being dorks. I think
Yeah.
that's what I
Talking
love
about the
about it.
auto industry.
And
So
and
what's
they
it
get
called? Past gas?
past gas, Pastgas, past
I
gas.
have I have some car lovers in my family who would love
Yep.
that. So I'm glad you
Yep.
shared that.
Yeah, and it's just it's very goofy. It is very much, that I wouldn't quite say high school, college humor, but it is. But it's very much a lighthearted look at these things, and they'll find the little nuance and make plenty of jokes about it. But it feels less reading to you, less, dictation, and just more about, you feel like you're sitting on the couch with these guys, having a conversation. So it's a fun one on days when, especially if I'm trying to think of an idea or I've just, hit that roadblock, because you can have that giggle, let your mind
Mhm.
go for a minute, and then probably think of something else.
Yeah. Yeah. I
you
love
know?
it. That's a great look into the creative process, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So here's a fun question. So
Okay.
picture you have a little bit of magic dust in your pocket and you could sprinkle it on one part of your business. What would it be?
I could sprinkle pixie dust on one part of my business. Um, I think I'd be lying if I didn't say that would be on the sales side, in the sense of,
Okay.
you know, uh, every business has their different reasons, right? For some, that's volume, and for some, that's, revenue. For me as a creative, it's one of those that it's always easy to sell what you're passionate about, but there is that difference between just being passionate and someone who really, really, really can drive a sales pipeline. People
Yeah.
who love and are bred to be those types of people. They have that knack. They have that boiling blood, that thing in them that is so different than when you're on the other side of things and you're trying to maintain a business, keep all the other parts moving, and still be creative. So that's that one part that I think I would sprinkle the dust on a little bit to try
Yeah.
and get things to grow. But that's also, for selfish reasons too. That's the part when you recognize, as any business owner, what you do well and the parts where you can improve. That's really that nod toward that self-improvement too.
Yeah, 100%. And it's very common, right? In business owners, those of us that came from a corporate environment and weren't in that role, in that sales
Yeah,
role, learning to do that, right? And
right,
you and I have that in common. You're selling yourself right now, right?
right,
Which is
right.
always a whole other set of complexities.
Yeah, and I think it's also one of those too that, there is that unfortunate stigma, right? People sometimes would joke about, oh, being a car salesman or being a whatever. And, it has its roots, but it also certainly has its stereotypes, that, as we well know, the automotive industry is not 100% like that, nor is it in any realm, right?
Right.
But it's one of those stigmas that oftentimes I think we kind of get critical of ourselves, like, oh, I don't want to be seen like that person,
Yeah.
right? Just because we know that we enjoy what we do and we want that genuineness to come out, not just trying to push a sale. But there still is a very much a craft to getting it right, for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. Educating the consumer, helping them. We say we're helping them make a good decision, right? Professionally,
Absolutely.
we're
We're
helping them
saving them from a bad
professionally.
one.
Right. Exactly. I'm going to throw in an extra question here. What do you want the audience to know about your business and maybe even about making video?
Well, I mean, first of all, like anything else that we exist, that when you have needs for content for social, for broadcast, or any other screen in between, you have options. And most importantly, that when if relationships matter, that there are places that value you just as much. That's really the heart of how I've tried to develop Square One is that there's a strong relationship there, and with that relationship comes honesty that we can have great conversations and know when things are right, know where things are wrong, and figure things out. um, in terms of video, I think the big thing is that it is not as easy as it looks at times, but as the market is really proving, video is becoming the driver for a reason. It is becoming I mean, it is not just becoming, it is a very important driver in how businesses promote themselves in all shapes and forms. And there are lots and lots and lots of ways to do it. The big thing is they just have to do it. I have a lot of, when I meet with clients on that first level, it's always about, well, I've been meaning to do it. I've been meaning to do it. I've been meaning to do it. But that means you have zero. And you
Mhm.
just at some point have to start and start small and build and build and pivot and build and pivot. And before you know it, you've got all this great content, all these great things going on, and you have customers who know who you are, and you have a personality to share, and all these really, really cool things. But you got to make that happen. And
Yeah.
understanding too, as a small business, that just like why I'm not an accountant, I have one for a reason. Same thing is here too. You can't run a business and do all the things. That's
Yeah.
why companies like mine exist, so that we can take that burden off, provide solutions and an outside perspective, and get it done. Deliver on
Love it.
time, make it happen.
Love it. Before we get to the final question of the day,
Mhm.
how can people find you? How can they reach out to you, contact you? And what does that first step look like, right? Sometimes that can be scary.
It can be for sure. First and foremost, we're on social media, both on LinkedIn and on Facebook. Square One Visuals and Consulting. We have obviously our website, which is SQ, the number one, ideas.com, SQ1ideas.com. Of course, if I had a bat signal, I would use that, but I don't have that. And things like that. And then we also have, of course, our general email address, info@sq1ideas.com, if there's ever a question and things like that. But you're right, that first reach out can be tricky. But that first reach out, like anything else, you take that step, you've already done the hard part. You've taken that next step to moving forward, because so many times people don't. They just put it away for tomorrow, and then pretty soon they've realized, uh-oh, I needed something yesterday. So
Yeah.
um, reaching out is the start. And from there, it leads to better conversations, and sometimes long conversations about really exploring what someone needs, what they like, what they don't like, um, and really helping to understand where they are, where they want to go, and then figuring out what types of things are going to fit that strategy the best. And then obviously, budget is a big part of that, trying to understand what can work in those bounds. And even sometimes that's a reality check. We don't know sometimes what things cost until we ask. And
Right.
then we have to at least say, hey, if this is the idea and this is the goal, this is what it's going to take. And go from there.
Awesome. Super helpful. Ryan, this has been a great conversation. I feel like we could talk all day. I loved hearing your story, getting to learn more about it. So thank you.
Mhm.
I encourage all of you watching to save this show, come back. There's been a lot of tidbits in here. Watch it again, like and subscribe the YouTube channel so that you can find all of the episodes as they drop. Thanks to everyone who joined us today, and special thank you to you, Ryan. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. Had a great time.
Me too.